What's up guys, Magic Gamer bringing you another Dragon Ball related video. Today's video is gonna be a discussion on Ultra Instinct, or Migate no Gokui, or the god-awful autonomous Ultra Instinct from the English dub, whichever you prefer. Anyways, lots of discussion and debate has been made on Ultra Instinct, mostly if it's a form or a technique. Well, for a while in a Facebook group I helped run, I said it's a form, but plot twist, I don't actually think that. I simply wanted to see the other side of the argument. But that said, before you go, so you agree it's a technique then? No, I don't. What I actually think, or rather know after doing some research, is well, it's both. But hear me out before you say you agree or disagree. Listen to what I gotta say, let me show you what I've got. I may end up changing your mind. I obviously can't force you to do anything, but I think this will at least make you walk away thinking, maybe he has a point or that's interesting. I also want to go over if Ultra Instinct is also a boost in power or not. I know some of you, or many of you, watching or listening might be like, obviously it does. But you'd be surprised. I know of at least one person, not taking a shot at you if you're watching, but this one person that I at least know thinks that it does not boost your power. Anyways, more on that later. Let's get into the meat of this first half of the research, Ultra Instinct being both a form and a technique. Let's start with when the concept of Ultra Instinct was first introduced to us, the audience, in the Dragon Ball Z Resurrection F manga. Some of you may or may not know / remember, but back during the upcoming release of the Resurrection F film, they released a preview manga of sorts to sort of hype up people for the film. This is drawn by Toyotaro, by the way. Anyways, in this we get the infamous moment where Whis describes UI to the audience. This is from Chapter 2 of the Resurrection F manga. I should also note this is a fan translation. They never officially released the Resurrection F promotional manga outside of Japan. Whis says, quote, "The two of you are still thinking about your actions before moving, especially you, Vegeta. You have a very strong tendency of putting too much thought in before you act. By the time your sensations pass through your five senses to your brain and are then transmitted back to your body, precious time has been lost. Ideally, what you want is for each and every part of your body to react, respond, and move of its own accord. Unfortunately, this is not an easy task. Even Beerus-sama has not fully mastered this yet. Once you're able to master this, then you would be able to overcome and avoid any threat." Vegeta then asks, "You seem to be implying you are capable of all this." Whis then replies with, "But of course." I again want to note that was a fan translation, so take it however you want. Anyways, we then hear this explanation again, but in the actual Dragon Ball Z Resurrection F film. In advance, sorry about the screenshots of the film. I had to take them with my phone because my computer has a odd anti-piracy measure to prevent screenshots of DVDs playing. It just makes a gray image of pictures and such. So, sorry about poor quality images here. Anyways, let's get into what Whis says about UI here. These are the Funimation subs, by the way. Whis says the following: "This will not do. You are still utterly lacking in speed. You two are still thinking with your heads in order to move. Doing so puts a limit on your speed. It takes time for your brain and your senses to travel along your nerves and go throughout your bodies. You just have to have each area of your body think and move on its own. This is very difficult. Not even Beerus-sama has completely mastered it. If you can overcome it, you will also be able to avoid any danger." Then Vegeta asks, "Are you saying you can do that?" Whis says, "Of course." So, as we can see, not too different from the Resurrection F manga explanation. Before I talk about these in more detail, let's move on to the Dragon Ball Super anime, where this was done yet again in the Resurrection F arc. So this is from Dragon Ball Super episode 18. By the way, I'm using Crunchyroll subs here in case anyone is wondering. Anyways, Whis says, "You completely lack speed. It's because you're both thinking before you act, so your speed is being limited. It takes time for your senses and brain commands to reach your bodies. You need to teach every part of your bodies to respond on their own. It's not an easy task. Not even Beerus-sama has mastered it. If you can overcome it, you will be able to avoid any danger." Goku then asks, "Can you do that, Whis-san?" Whis says, "Of course." Alright, so now we have all three versions of that event. I should note that they do not do this in the Super manga. They skip over Resurrection F in the Super manga. So basically, if you want a Resurrection F Super version, you had to watch the anime. Anyways, so what did we learn? While this is clearly foreshadowing for Ultra Instinct, we did not get a name yet. We know Whis can do it, but did not show it. I know some of you will say he did it while avoiding Goku and Vegeta during the training prior to this, but Goku has done similar things with people by simply being faster and stronger than them. Look at his fight with Jason Berter. Easy to avoid without much effort if you outclass the person you are fighting. so Whis was not using UI at this time. Beerus is stated to not have mastered it yet, more on that later, and we get a basic understanding of what the simple version of UI is, simply the ability or something to dodge, attack, avoid, and move without thought in a fight, which makes it sound very close to its real-life inspiration, Mushin, which Geekdom 101 did a video on actually, link to that down below in the description. So at this point, UI, which had no name at this time, did not seem like a technique or transformation either, simply something that would come from training over time with Whis, more of a fighting style perhaps, if anything. But enough of that, let's move on. The Super manga eventually does hint at UI being a thing in its pages starting in chapter 27 on page 35. This is the vids translation, by the way. Whis talks to Vegeta saying the following: "I can tell that you still think first and move later. Doing that is limiting. It will take some time for your brain and senses to get your body to move how you want. You must be able to let every single part of your body judge and act on its own, and that's very difficult. Even Lord Beerus hasn't mastered it." So more or less a shorter version of the previous stuff. It is not much different, and UI still does not have a name, much less terms such as form/transformation or technique tied to it. Just a simple concept, nothing more, nothing less. Let's move on to the two instances of people saying UI happened, but both are actually debunked in the material. We will start with Beerus. Remember, I said we'd come back to that. So in Super Manga chapter 28 page 37, we start seeing Beerus do what most thought was UI because he was dodging in a way that seemed similar to UI. Whis on the next page following this says to Goku, his body can sense attacks and make decisions to dodge them. While this sounds like UI, we later get this line from Beerus when Goku starts using the omen or sign version of UI in the manga in chapter 39 on page 42. "That jerk Goku pulled off Ultra Instinct before me." This flat out tells us Beerus can't even do UI sign/omen, or the completed version for that matter. He likely did something similar to what people also thought was UI. Roshi in chapter 39 on page 30 starts avoiding Jiren's attacks, but it's confirmed this same chapter on page 33 by Whis that it's not when Whis says, "A resemblance, yet it's still a far cry from that technique." I know some of you are like, see, Whis said technique. Don't worry, we will come back to that later. Focus on the fact it's not UI. So we now know Beerus was not even using UI, nor was Roshi, for that matter, which means the only time we have actually seen UI in real use was when Goku done it. So Goku is all we have to base the appearance and use of UI on. So that said, let's move on for now. So let's jump to the anime, as we are now discussing tournament power events for both the manga and anime. Since the anime did it first, we will cover it first. So every time the anime uses the term technique or form when discussing UI. I will note some claim the use of the word form means form as in martial arts form, but such terms are rarely, if ever, used in Dragon Ball. But we will let the context speak for itself. So, in Dragon Ball Super Episode 110, we finally get a look at Ultra Instinct, or at least the Omen/Sign version. It's called State, as seen here, but Super Saiyan has also been called State before, so not really a case for anything from Episode 110 here. It's called Form, as seen here. Bear in mind, Roshi has a flashback of Goku fighting previously during his first use of Omen. Roshi is focusing on Goku's appearance, so this here means transformation due to the focus on appearance. This is from episode 115. It is called State here again in episode 116. It's called Form here again, considering the previous case they clearly mean form, as in transformation. This is from episode 129. Called State here again in episode 129. Called Form here again by Beerus in agreement with Whis. Note they recognize it based on look, so hence the term form meaning transformation. Episode 129. So that covers the terms from the anime. Note none imply technique, really. We have 3 uses of the term state and 3 uses of the term form here from the anime alone. Let's move on to the manga now. So we finally get the first use of the term technique as shown here in the manga from chapter 39, page 33. Whis calls it a technique here in chapter 39 on page 40. Whis again calling it a technique in chapter 39 on page 45. Krillin calling it a form here, so first use of the term form in the manga in chapter 40 on page 45. A God of Destruction calling it a technique here in chapter 41 on page 13. Whis calling it a state here in chapter 41, page 13. And finally, before Moro stuff, Vegeta calling it a technique in chapter 41 on page 35. So with that so far, the manga during the course of the TOP arc has 5 uses of the term technique, 1 use of the term form, and 1 use of the term state. If we use what we have so far with both the anime and the manga total, we have 4 uses of the term form, 4 uses of the term state, and 5 uses of the term technique. Clearly, by this point, they have made it clear they fully intended for it to be both, not just one or the other. Now, I should note I have Moro chapter uses ready, but I have to note this is where Toriyama is no longer part of the writing. If you don't know what I'm talking about, check out another Geekdom 101 video linked in the description so you can take these uses as you wish. So Beerus calling it a technique here, but note this is also when UI is being compared to Super Saiyan, a transformation, in chapter 52 on page 40. Goku calling it a technique in chapter 58 on page 45. Moro calling it a technique in chapter 59 on page 3. Moro again calling it a technique, chapter 59, page 11. Gohan calling it a form, chapter 59, page 35. Beerus calling it a form, chapter 59, page 44. Moro calling it a form, chapter 63, page 25. So now with this, we have just in the Moro arc, or Galactic Patrol Prisoner arc, 4 uses of the term technique, 3 uses of the term form. If we total them so far, we get 4 uses of the term state, 7 uses of the term form, and 9 uses of the term technique. I guess let's go to the real world official statements now just to get a final tally. So Toei on Twitter called it a form 2 times as shown here and here. Clearly, yet again showing when they say form, they mean transformation. Granted, in one of these, they included Kaioken as a transformation, but we know it's not. So with that said, if we take that and add it to our grand total, 4 uses of the term state, 9 uses of the term form, and 9 uses of the term technique, all used to describe what Ultra Instinct, Omen/Sign, and a completed version is. Clearly, yet again showing they intended for it to be viewed and accepted as both, not just one or the other. So all this nice evidence and flat out statements from in-universe and outside universe, we see Ultra Instinct as a transformation and a technique. We also know now that outside of Goku, we never seen anyone actually use UI. Not Whis, but we know he can. Not Beerus, and we know he can't by his own admission. And obviously not Roshi by Whis and Beerus saying so. Which means, what we know as UI, completed and incomplete, is what UI actually looks like. So, it looks like that for everyone, not just Goku or Saiyans in general. Everyone. So now that we have established that it's not just a transformation for Goku and that it is a transformation and technique for everyone, I want to make one final point on this. If you don't believe me, here's a quote from Geekdom 101 himself. Geekdom, if you're watching this, feel free to comment saying you said this. Ultra Instinct is both a technique and a transformation. It is considered more of a state of being, which is why it is referred to as the mastery of self-movement, aka Migate no Gokui. This is obviously in the context of what the form is, how it is accessed, and how it works. So if you don't take my word for it with all I've shown, then maybe take Geekdom's word for it. Anyways, moving on. So the last bit I want to cover is if Ultra Instinct, Omen/Sign in the completed version actually boosts stats like Kaioken and all the SSJ forms. I have heard one argument saying all it does is let the user exploit weaknesses. This is wrong. Maybe not completely wrong, as the body reacts on its own. It's possible it is looking for weaknesses in a person's guard, however, that's not what it is only doing, aside from the obvious auto attack, block, dodge, etc. Let's look at the statements. We will start with the anime since that is where both versions of Ultra Instinct were shown first. So as seen in episode 110 of Super, Krillin, Tien, and Roshi are talking with Whis about UI. In this moment, Whis explains the Spirit Bomb is what triggered it, but Krillin then asks if Whis means Goku powered up via the Spirit Bomb, but then goes on to point out the power of the Spirit Bomb did not work on Jiren, and that even if it did power him up, it does not explain how Goku is now able to match Jiren. Note that detail. Spirit Bomb was not able to work, so even if that was what boosted him, it would not explain how he's able to match. Keyword, match Jiren. This means Ultra Instinct is clearly increasing Goku's stats, not just his speed and reactions. Next major moment, while discussing of Goku's current first use of UI Omen, they say, but somehow Goku instantly overcame the overwhelming difference in power. With every block he hits Jiren more quickly, sharply, and heavily. This proves it increased his power as Blue, no matter how hard he hit, even with Kaioken, even while throwing a Spirit Bomb, it did nothing to Jiren. Yet now with UI Omen, Goku is now actually hitting him and doing damage. It is a clear boost in not only reaction and speed, but power, as they say, heavily, which implies more power is being applied to Goku's punches. It literally makes zero sense why Goku's base, because that's what some people thought this was, is now suddenly able to do damage simply because it's looking for weaknesses. Anyways, let's look at other statements about the obvious power increase in the anime. In Goku and Jiren's fight, as we can see here, Jiren flat states, don't get cocky just because you've powered up. Yet again, a clear statement to back a clear notable increase in power, a obvious multiplier. We yet again here get a statement to back it. Could his power now be far beyond that of Jiren's? Yet again, power, yep. UI clearly increasing all your stats, the usual stuff. So moving on to the manga. There is no obvious clear statements about power increase, however it's clear Goku does get stronger in the form, so yeah, at this point it's very clear UI does boost all your stats. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video. I tried to do as much research as I could, and I obviously can't change everyone's minds, but I hope you learned something, or at the very least walk away thinking if anything. So make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and turn on that notification bell to be told when I upload another video. Please also check out all the links in the description, which lead to sources and my social media. Thank you guys for watching, have a great day, peace. Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z/Kai, Dragon Ball GT, and Dragon Ball Super are all owned by Fuji TV, Toei Animation, Funimation, and Akira Toriyama. I do not claim to own any of these. The video and any images that appear were used under fair use.